Croeso nôl. Welcome back, everyone, to Fearless in Devotion, the podcast. As you know by now, or you should know by now, sponsored by the Fat Boar, one of Wrexham's finest dining and drinking holes. So, no game to discuss this week, sadly, because Forest Green, the game was called off late on. And commiserations to everyone who had started the journey. I understand, Tim, there were quite a few that got sort of stuck in an accident on the way there, on the way back, weren't there?
Yeah, one of the Wrexham fans, can't think who it was now, forgive me. He actually stopped to give a couple of statements to emergency services. It was quite a bad accident. So, yeah, just added insult to injury for all those that travelled. Postponements are going to happen, aren't they, this time of year? And we weren't the only ones that day. There was quite a few. I think Bradford was another, Barrow maybe, I think, Mansfield. So, quite a few washouts. I get the anger about there being an 11:30 pitch inspection. My understanding is that both managers wanted the game on. It was the referee that decided it was too dangerous. So I think in the cold light of day, you look at it and go, all right, it's a bit crap. We could have done playing the game, but then it gives the opportunity to get some of the walking wounded back fit. And we just have to strong arm that game into a midweek now.
Bloody British weather, Andy. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, it was a bit late, wasn't it? Barrow called theirs off nice and early. I suppose you have to in Barrow because it's Britain's longest cul-de-sac. You can't do anything about the weather. I mean, the only thing was I saw a picture of the pitch a couple of hours later and it looked all right then. But you can't say that it's going to stop raining at 11:30. You don't want to start a game and then stop it with everyone in the
a la Aldershot.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we don't want to see Paul Mullin with a squeegee again, really, do we? So
we don't.
Do you think they should change the kind of process to that though? To make if there's any doubt whatsoever, then you make a mandatory pitch inspection at 9 a.m. to give more time for people to go, right, I haven't left yet, or I'm only half an hour into my journey. Because I understand that they'd want to give as much time as possible for that match to be on, but surely a judgment call has to be made early, especially if that much rain is falling overnight.
Or at least it would maybe even give people a heads up so they go, oh, you know what, I'll give it an hour before I leave. I was going to get there early on lunchtime and have lunch, but I'll leave it a bit longer. Yeah, maybe. It's a good shout. Although it didn't stop some people from having a great day. The South Wales Reds, who I think had arranged their first bus of the season, had more than 50 on it, found out as they were crossing the Severn Bridge that the game was cancelled. Rather than turn around and go home, they honoured their booking with the pub, I think it's the Beehive in Bristol, where the landlord is a big Wrexham fan, Rufus Roberts, and some of them spent the whole day there drinking and then eating in the evening. Others went to watch Bristol Rovers, I think. So a good day had by all, I understand. And also it didn't fare too badly for the team as well, because other results went our way, Andy.
Yeah, you would have, just looking at it, Stockport got a late equaliser, fair enough. But they are stuttering a little bit, aren't they? I think if you put pressure on Stockport at the moment, they're not the unbeatable side we thought they were a couple of months ago. I thought they'd run away with it with the quality in the squad, but I'm not so sure now. They are. I mean, it's just the same with this league. Anyone can beat anyone on a given day. It's quite tight, and that's why we shouldn't really get down when we lose or draw a match. And, the results went for us. Crew, who were looking dangerous, they lost. So, second place with a game in hand, it's starting to look, if you look at back down the league, it's so tight up until about 6, and then there's a drop off from Wimbledon for about 5 points. So you would think that this top 6 will start moving away a little bit now, and it's a case of who can get into the top 3, but I still give us a very good chance of doing that. I'm a Wrexham fan, and I don't particularly want to sit here and say I think we're going to get promoted because I know what can go wrong, but part of me does sort of think we might get promoted.
It's happening, Andy. It's happening.
No, come on. Something will go wrong. One of our strikers will be bitten by a poisonous spider.
God, remember that? Jesus wept.
Twice. One season, Jordan White got a tropical disease, and then second second season after, James Gray got bitten by a poisonous spider. What the hell do you do after that?
Yeah.
Did you say teams had dropped points around us last weekend?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Well, that brings me neatly onto my Book of Okonkwo entry.
Oh.
Funnily, you should say it. Don't give me that. You've been accused of emasculating me and bullying me, saying put him back in his corner. So don't start, Gilpin. You've been warned. I've had good feedback, whether people take the piss or not. I've worked on about 12 different versions this week, and they're all not very good. So this one has just come to me in a moment of pure poetry and genius. So let me remember the lyrics quickly. Right, here we go. It's happening. Teams are dropping points around us. Wrexham AFC in full flow. 'Tis the season. Got a decent keeper. Merry Christmas, Okonkwo.
Whoever said that the Welsh and natural singers needs to take a listen to that.
It was in tune.
Zoom is doing me dirty. I thought,
Oh yeah, it's not me, it's Zoom.
I had to twist my testicles to the left at least 2 times to hit those notes. So what am I getting a mark out of 10 here or what?
It was in tune. The Okonkwo at the end felt, it felt nice. It worked.
There's not enough. That's not a terrace chant, mate. It takes too long to build up to the Okonkwo.
I didn't plan on being at a terrace chant, but let the man who likes Giuseppe Verdi speak. So let's have a.
Thank you. I did think it. I thought it worked. Again, maybe not a terrace chant. But I'm not gonna, try and stop you from sparkling, Tim. You sparkle away every week on the podcast.
Brilliant. Thank you. I now know what it feels like to be on Britain's Got Talent. Andy, go on. Just be the cow.
Hang on. Have I got a buzzer?
Yeah, I was going to say, don't hit the golden one. All right. Moving on.
Swiftly.
The women are through to the Boot Energy Welsh Cup. Tim, after defeating Britain Ferry 2-0, they're just going from strength to strength, it seems, and recovered from that result down in Swansea.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a break. I think that they're free weekend or fixture break. Back straight to it. Clean sheet for Del Morgan. 2-0 win. Yeah, I mean, we keep saying it, don't we, week after week, that they've gone into this division and just acclimatized fairly easily. Second place, sandwich between Cardiff and Swansea. Yeah, upsetting the monopoly in that table. So yeah, great for them. Onwards and upwards for Steve Dale's team. So great stuff. Happy for him. And it'd be very interesting to see where they finish. I think they'll probably win the Welsh Cup. I think they'll win it.
Bold claim. Let's hope so.
Europe?
No.
Does that get Europe, or you need to win the Adran outright? Do you?
Yes. So that might be a building block. It might be a step too far this year because Cardiff are quite strong, but one step at a time.
Yeah, they're going from strength to strength. In other news, probably the biggest news is the temporary stand, which we were discussing last week, which has gone up at a rate of knots, Andrew.
Yeah, they absolutely piled that up. I mean, I don't know where they've got the contractors from. You're right there. You're going to hit us with another song there, Tim? About the temporary stand?
No, I've had my moment of glory. I'm happy. I'm waiting for
Merry Christmas, temporary stand.
Temporary stand. Happy opening. Yeah, I'll do.
But yeah, it looks pretty good. It's going to be cold, isn't it?
Yeah, it is going to be cold. It's going to be cold in the cold road, and the cold road is cold. Logistically, how is this going to happen? Are they just going to release a whole new bunch of tickets? Is it a bun fight? Is it going to members first?
I hope it's going to members first, because I didn't get a ticket for the Newport game and I'm desperate to go. So really looking forward to the stand. Really looking forward to the stand being open, because I did have my doubts about it being ready for the 23rd, but don't see why not now.
Please help Reece get a Newport ticket, because he hates them more than me and Andy do.
Yeah.
I'm not. I won't discuss Newport on the podcast, but if you want to discuss them with me over a pint on the 23rd, you'd be more than welcome to.
Only in a personal capacity, not a professional one. It has to
No,
be
it's
said.
purely personal. Yeah, very, very personal.
Going back to what you were saying about the stand, yeah, it's not going to be roofed, is it? It's not going to be covered. It is going to be cold. How would you, if you say you're in that stand, Reese? How would you keep warm?
How would I keep? Well, I'd sing Tim's Okonkwo songs non-stop.
And then it will be a flurry of punches, and then that would keep you warm.
That Axel F one, the original and best, has got legs. It happened a little bit at Harrogate, has to be said.
Did it?
It did, yes.
Okay.
Much shout out to Wrexham's Premier WhatsApp group boys for blasting that one through.
Okay, fair play. Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm not sure I've got any better advice other than to wrap up warm, Andy. I mean, would you offer any better advice?
Well, my mate Chris's dad always takes a little sort of hip flask of whiskey in, so maybe a wee nip every now and again.
I got bought hand warmers from my Secret Santa with work a couple of years ago. I've never used them, but maybe that would be when I'd crack them out.
Are you famous for having cold hands? Is that?
No, I didn't think I did, but then apparently I rub them a lot. So rub them together.
Like a Bond villain.
Like Vic Reeves in Shooting Stars.
Must be. Yeah, Tim, any advice? Or keeping warm?
You know what? I mean, but without the risk of signing ill, get some thermals on.
Yeah,
Worth
thermal socks, feet.
Yeah, it's gonna be that classic case. I know we laugh about it a little bit in jest when you go away from home and people are you're sitting in my seat, and that's an annoyance because it should be like just sit anywhere away from home. But with it being this new stand, there are going to get people are going to get confused with the seating unless they're clearly marked, which I'm hoping it will be. So you're going to get the odd one going, oh, you're in my seat, or standing up in front of them. So you're going to be sat there for a long time. It's going to be cold. Thermals, hand warmers are definitely a salient idea. Solid hat, strong gloves, and if you're a massive texter, get some gloves with the old little sort of tips where you can the mobile phone friendly gloves.
Fingerless gloves, yeah, like a violinist.
Not fingerless, no, pointless them.
Oh no, yeah, with the sort of textured tip.
Yeah, fingerless will just make you look slightly unusual because I had a pair. It's not good look.
But still, for more winter clothing advice, come back next week. We've got a big guest coming up before we do some news in that the Wrexham Shrewsbury game, the FA Cup third round, will be on S4C. Do we know about ESPN yet?
It will be. There's no way. I'm sure they'll be covering it, and S4C are just picking up the coverage. I'm sure that's how it works. I think ESPN are pretty set on covering any Wrexham FA Cup match they can. I mean, if they're doing Blythe away, I'm pretty sure they'll do this.
So for our American listeners, that's something to look forward to for you guys. Let's hope for another cup run. It will be a tasty affair, I'm sure. But Andy, we've got a guest that is currently in our virtual waiting room, in our digital waiting room.
Shall I get him in?
Get him in. Why do you think I bring it up?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Right, he is connecting to audio. You can probably see who it is.
I can't yet.
I've briefed us. I put the video on. Go to landscape. We'll see.
Right, Tony, can you hear us? You're on mute.
Can you see Tony, Andy?
I can't see him, but I can see that he's joined.
Okay, I'm totally blind here.
These are the bits where we completely edit these out with Andy's new skills.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Here we go.
He is.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Good.
How are you, Tony? You well?
I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We were just discussing the temporary stand that's gone up on the COP.
Right. Yeah, I saw it was going up. Yeah, has it gone up? Has it?
I'm sure you've got plenty of memories of the actual COP to discuss with us, but I'll let Andy introduce you first.
Yeah, I mean, what we normally do, Tony, we normally do an introduction. I want to do this a little bit differently. Firstly, I'm going to ask you a question. So Andy Marriott, Carl Conley, Darren Ferguson, Lee Trundle, Carlos Edwards, Brian Carey, Gary Bennett. These are just some of the people that Brian Flynn signed. But who do you think he thought was his best ever signing?
Can I tell you what he said to me, or
I said it to all the players, Tony. But go on.
As he said that to everybody. That's the only thing. He did say it was me, but he told me that. But whether that's true or not, I don't know. He might have told many people.
Right, I'm gonna, rather than do you an intro, because whatever I could say wouldn't be as good as what Brian Flynn could say. So I'm gonna say what Brian Flynn said about you, which is from our fanzine issue number 2, still available if you want it. He said, "Who was my best ever signing? Tony Humes in 1992 by an absolute country mile. We needed a centre half at the time, someone who could give us some leadership. I said to Kevin Reeves and Joey Jones, let's get our head together. I rang Arthur Cox, Bobby Robson's assistant and a great football man who I knew well, and asked him if he had someone like that he could loan us for a couple of months. He said Tony was the one. Arthur told me he's 24, he's been here since he was 15, he's a Geordie and we want him to have a long, long career. It's just not going to be for us. He's down at Ipswich, he's playing tomorrow for their reserves against Charlton Reserves at the Valley if you want to have a look." Joey volunteered to go. He left Wrexham at 9 a.m. for a 7 p.m. kickoff and got back at 4 in the morning. He came in at 10 and told us, we've got to sign him. He's going to be our captain. Arthur told me that when Tony wanted to miss training, to let him do it because he knew his own body. That's exactly how it was. He'd have Mondays off and a light day on Thursdays, but you could always depend on him for class and consistency. Well, with that, class and consistency, Mr. Class and Consistency himself, Tony Humes, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, not too bad at all.
Firstly, before we sort of go into it, you mentioned Arthur Cox. Then was he down at Ipswich or was he still at Newcastle at that point?
I think it must have been when Bobby Robson was at Newcastle, I would imagine. He's never, not when I was at Ipswich, he wasn't there anyway. So, not that I remember that anyway. So. Yeah, I mean, there's a few similarities to that story there. There's a few discrepancies as well that I remember, but it might be slightly different. Ooh. But you know, similar lines.
Go on, give us some discrepancies.
Well, the one that Brian Flynn told me I'm sure it was a guy called Dave Kirkley, who Brian knew for years and years, who whether he worked for Brian or whether he was just close with Brian, I think it might have been from around when he was in Burnley. And Dave knew me he was a Geordie chap, and he knew me from when I was a kid up in the northeast. And obviously, whether he followed me when I went down to Ipswich when I was, let's say, 15, 16. And then the similar sort of thing happened. And I think it was both Joey Jones and Kevin Reeves came down to watch me in a reserve game. Very similar to what you said about the timescales, and because it was a hell of a journey those days from Wrexham down to Suffolk and whatever. But yeah, it was very, very similar. I think I'd started the season in the first team at Ipswich. I broke my arm in a game up at Newcastle. Sort of, I think it was September time, and that was my last ever game. I never played again. And I needed to get out to continue my career. So, you know, luckily it seemed to suit both parties, both myself, because, you know, it was a great opportunity for me to go and start playing again. And, you know, I fulfilled what Brian and Joey and Kevin were looking for.
Yeah, I think you certainly did. So you came 2 months after the FA Cup win. So obviously Wrexham's in vogue. It's you know, it's making the news, but we certainly weren't doing very well in the league. Was it an easy decision to make to come to Wrexham? Because it's, you know, you're coming all the way across the country. Did you have a young family to think about? I mean, how hard is it for a professional to make that sort of decision?
I think it's both. You've got the two sides of the hat there. Exactly what you said. You've got the family side where you got 2 young children. I had 2 young daughters at the time. One was just, I think, when I moved, one was only about 5-6 weeks old. So it was a big decision from the family point of view, but from a professional point of view, from a personal point of view, football was all I ever wanted to do. And I think my time at Ipswich had come to an end. I knew that, and I needed to go out and play. And I think that's, you know, Brian Flynn sold me that. He wanted me there. He believed in what, without probably seeing me play, he believed in me. And obviously, like as you say, the FA Cup win over Arsenal had just highlighted everything about it. And Brian sold the club. We're going places. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And it just worked for me. It worked for me to take the chance. I was 26 then. Obviously, I had a young family. I needed to play football. If I wasn't going to play, my career could have just gone. And what was my next step then if that had happened? So I needed to take a chance, which turned out not to be a chance at all. It turned out to be probably the best part of my carear.
No.
I can say that wholeheartedly. That's the 9 odd years I spent at Wrexham was definitely the best time of my footballing career anyway.
I mean, I just want to talk about sort of joining. I mean, Jones knew a thing or two about being a defender. How did you get on with him? Any sort of stories? And could he even teach you something about the dark arts that you didn't know?
I think there was always the working with them, but they just give us so much belief. I think they give every player so much belief that they could do what they were good at. And Joey's own career speaks for itself, and how he often went into these challenges, and he was 100% on the pitch. He gave everything, and left nothing out there. And I think I was probably a similar type of player. Wasn't always probably the most cultured at times, but my size, just short of 6 foot. I needed to be able to compete. When you're playing centre half, both me and Mel Pedgick, who were centre halves in that season. Neither of us were 6 foot, but we sort of seemed to, click together and work together, without being the most. You wouldn't look at us and go, "Oh God, look at." They'd probably relish the chance. Centre forwards,
Yeah.
6'3", 6'4", would probably, we'll get on top of them today. But we had to use our physicality and our strength. And Pedge was one of the strongest players I've ever played with. Even though he was 5'10" at most, but God, was he strong, both mentally and physically. And I think we just knew how to use our physicality and aggression at the right time.
Yeah. Just when you did sort of join, there was a lot of youngsters there, but was there a particular player where you got into training and you went, "Oh, he's good"? Anyone who sort of really surprised you with ability, really?
I think there was quite a few, to be honest with you. And there was quite a few, and I think Lee Jones had just gone from Wrexham to Liverpool. I don't know if it was before.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was before I got there. But Lee went for a decent amount of money, and the likes of Gareth Owen, Phil Hardy, Colt Connolly. There was a lot of good, talented young players there. Some went on and had better careers. Some didn't quite move on and get there, which was a travesty, because some of them were excellent players. Steve Watkins, another one who did move on and did go down to Swansea. But just real good. I loved, one of the things I loved about Wrexham when I came to the club was how Brian sold as well about the young players there, and having been at Ipswich and come through the ranks at Ipswich. I think the way Bobby Robson moulded the club was built along the same lines, and that's sort of given me my sort of ethos into how I believe the game should be played. When I moved on and worked in academies and things like that really just felt like home to me, to be fair, when I came to Wrexham, because that was a similar sort of club to what I'd sort of experienced at Ipswich.
Yeah, I want to talk about your first sort of full season. I mean, in our lifetime, we've only tasted 2 promotions. Tim, that's it. That's right, isn't it?
Three.
Well, what was the other one?
So you had 92, 93. You had 2002, 2003, and you had
sorry, yeah. Okay, two league promotions anyway. I mean, that conference was such a dark thing. I'm trying to wipe it from my memory. I can't anyway. But yeah, I think this was the 92, 93 was the first one I can remember. I was quite young at the time. I obviously couldn't go away, but there was certainly some matches that really, really sort of stuck in my mind. But firstly, sort of coming together in pre-season, that that year, Gary Bennett had come in, and I think we needed a striker. Did you look at him in training and go, "Hang on, he could be the difference here," or did he the sort of player who only came alive at match day?
Yeah. that was Benno in a T to a T. In a training session, he would do what he could. He would go through the motions. Never the most technically gifted player, but on a match day, well, his record at Wrexham speaks for itself, doesn't it? The goals he scored. But if you look at some of the goals he scored as well, you would think, he has got technical ability. But he was something else, just for those. I think it was the first 2 years, wasn't it? He scored 20 odd in the first season, and then was it the next season he scored 40 odd? I can't remember if it was the next one or if it was the one after. But you looked at it and thought, I think that we started the promotion season. We started averagely, I would say, at best. We weren't setting any fires alight. We weren't probably looking cohesive. We probably weren't looking as if we were a good team. But I think if you look at how the team had changed from the season previous, there was quite a few changes. I know both me and Mel came in the season before, but I don't think we never played a lot. I think Mel got injured and missed it towards the end of the season. I came in, probably played the last 6-7 games, something like that. Barry Jones came in at the start of the season, so there was probably only Phil Hardy, who was from the season before, who'd been whether he's a regular or not. So there was a lot of changes, and I think there was a lot of gelling together that needed to be done. And again, testament to the coaching staff, to Brian, to Kev and Joey, who managed to get that out of us. And it was tough, the start of the season. Now, one thing I do remember was from the season previous, the 91-92 season, our last game was at Burnley away.
Right.
And Burnley had been promoted.
I think I know what this is going to be.
And I can tell the story about John Paskin, not that one.
We can have to tell us that one as well now.
But we won the game 2-1. Burnley had been promoted, so it was a bit of possibly a nothing game for them. But we won the game. There was a fantastic atmosphere, but Turf Moor was a full house. Towards the end of the game, the crowd were coming on, they're getting closer and closer to the pitch. The John Paskin thing was the ball got played up the line. Somebody actually came on and tackled him and took him out. which you wouldn't get away with it nowadays. But that was the game then, and that was how it worked. But we won the game 2-1, and at the end of the game, Brian Flynn said to us, "Believe me, this is going to be us next year." And again, just giving us that belief, giving us that, And again, he brought quite a few players in, but there was again just giving us confidence. He was going to get us in the right place at the right time. So that was the end of the season before. So it had already started in terms of what the coaching team were about, how they wanted to go about it, and how they wanted to push us and give us everything that they could. And then as I say, it started off slowly. The following season, the promotion season, but we got there. We got there in the end. And one game or two games that stick out in my mind, which were back-to-back games, and it was October. The Crew away game, which we won't go into too much detail on, which I think everybody knows what happened. Then the following game, we played Halifax at home, and it was a horrible day. It was pitch, the racecourse was boggy as anything. It wasn't a great performance. We were winning 1-0, and I think there was at best about 1,800 in the racecourse, so it was empty. We weren't, as I say, we weren't doing great things, so you could understand it to a degree. And we conceded a last-minute equaliser, so we've gone from the previous week getting battered, and then this one you're thinking, oh my God, where is it going? Where is it going? And I think at that time, those two games sort of gave us a lot of togetherness, and we sort of obviously something happened, something clicked. I think we won the next 6 on the bounce.
Wow.
And we started. Obviously something clicked or something deep in us, whether it was Joey and Kev, Brian, getting into us and actually said, "Come on, you to do anything, we've got to, you've got to dig in." But I think we won the next 6, which then got us on that roll and got us going.
Yeah.
Tony, can I ask you how important that sort of mental side of things are in terms of managers giving confidence to players? Because, we've seen in sort of the documentary so far that it seems like sort of Phil Parkinson is a manager who does sort of inspire the players. I mean, I suppose, is it the fact that that's one of the most important things for a kind of first team coach or manager to do? Because all the hard work obviously happens on the training ground, and that's really important. But is it that side that's maybe often underlooked?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got to believe in your players. As a coaching team, you're the ones who brought these players in the first place. So you have to give them the opportunity to show why you've brought them in the first place, and you've got to work with them to gel together. Which, as I say, going back to it, I think it might have just taken a little bit longer than they first thought when they did that. But they always were giving us confidence, always, and I think it's paramount. You've got to give your players confidence, and to do what they're good at, and find out certain ways and how you can get that out of the best players. So certain players need a little bit more direct, ain't good enough sort of thing. But I think certainly nowadays it's even more so, with characters changing, with what you can do, what you can't do with people. I think it's always the same. If you've got an athlete or a sportsman, and you're taking their confidence away from them, it doesn't work. You've got to really get them believing that they are good, and that's to get the best of what they are good at.
Do you know what? It certainly worked in your case. I'm looking at that. So, yeah, you met the Halifax game, then you drew Walsall, and then you won 9 out of the next 10.
Yeah, was that what it was? Yeah.
Couple of notable scores here. I don't think the defence had a great time this afternoon, but it was Wrexham 5, Chesterfield 4.
It was the conditions. Conditions were awful. It was really icy. The game shouldn't have been played.
Oh, okay, all right. There's the defenders' union there. There was a couple of people who came into the end of that season, I think were quite important. But the first one I want to mention, and it's quite simple: Mike Lake, discuss.
Mike Lake was brilliant for us. He just came in at the right time. I think we would probably, I can't remember exactly when he came in, but we were obviously just hitting form. Confidence was building within the team. He came into a team that was just starting to pick up and just starting to get good. And obviously Mike had come from Sheffield United, big club. He probably, similar to myself, I would imagine, Mike needed to be playing. I think I read something not so long ago that he'd started the season at Sheffield United in the team, and then was left out, and he needed to go out and play at the age he was at. But he came in and he set in straight away, and he just fitted like hand in glove. And there was, great signing, good footballer, did what we wanted to do, gave us a bit more physicality in there as well, because he's a good size Mike. And yeah, he did great. And I know it took a little while to get. I think he came on loan first, didn't he, before he signed permanently. It took a little while, and I think we missed him for a game or two where he was making a decision, or the club was making a decision whether to sign him or not. But in the end, he came, and what happened to the end of the season was just amazing, really, just fantastic.
I mean, Lake was so good. I mean, as I say, I was a young lad, but the stuff he used to do, I'd not seen at Wrexham before. You could just tell he come from higher level. I know what you say about him going back to Sheffield United. I think he actually played a couple of games for them, and then came back to us for 60 grand. I will be honest, on loan he was brilliant. And he was great for the end of that season. The next season, I don't know. It's something didn't really.
When we signed him permanently,
something didn't really work. Can you put your finger on what that might have been, Tony?
No, I don't know. You look at different players, and everybody's different. Everybody's got different personalities, and whether he enjoyed the challenge to start with, and then whether he. We got promoted, so we went up a division, or whether he thought he was maybe better than than our level, I don't know. But you know, I think the one thing you've got to look at is just to say it was great that season. We got promoted, and that's where you've got to just, you know, what happens afterwards is you know, disappointing. And I suppose it's for Mike to work out what really happened in that respect. But you know, things move on. Times change, players change, and you just got to get on with how it goes at the time.
Another player who was about at that point, Jimmy Case. Now, I think he came in towards the end of the season. I think I'm right in saying he was 38. He still looked like he could look after himself. I'm going to put it that way. I mean, what was he like to deal with on the training pitch? Was he the different from Bennett? Was he sort of always sort of on it?
He was brilliant. I don't think he was on it as in terms of because of his age, and he got through it because of his experience. I think, you know, how many games Jimmy played, I'm not exactly sure, but the part he played in terms of being around the squad, whether it was on the bench or being around the players, just given that experience of you know, calming down when things weren't quite going right in certain games, encouraging. He was brilliant. Jimmy was absolutely, you know, and what, you know, for somebody who's played at such a high level and so successful, you know, to come down and help us out, he was just an excellent person, real top person, yeah, real good.
Yeah, we've had that again. When next time we got promoted 10 years after, we brought in an experienced midfielder, a lad called Scott Green, and I think it really sort of helped us through the last few months again. Right, I want to talk about 3 games that have sort of lasered onto my brain. It was the last 3 games of the season, beating Carlisle 3-1, Northampton away, which I couldn't go to because I was too young, but Wrexham 4, Colchester 3. I don't think I'll ever forget. Just the game that's so topsy turvy. I remember running on the pitch at the end. I got Cal Connolly's left sock, but couldn't keep hold of it. But it was just absolute scenes. I thought football's always going to be like this, isn't it?
Yeah. And wouldn't it be lovely if it was? Yeah. All the just ups, not downs. That's it's a funny game in that respect. We finished the season really well. I think I'm not sure if it was the game previous where Cardiff beat us.
Yeah, 2-0 at home.
Yeah, and that was a little bit. To be fair, that was a little bit of the championship decider in the end, wasn't it? Who actually went up as champions, because I think they were beat us by 3 points or 2 points or something. There wasn't a lot in it. But you know, whether that was a good thing, it maybe took a few nerves away from us, and because we knew we probably had to win either all the games or at least 2 of them, it probably just maybe settled us a bit and said, no, we're good enough. We've done this. Since Christmas we've had this amazing run. We've got to sort of make sure that we get promoted, because all of the hard work had been done. We just had to finish it off, and you know, the games were great. I think we controlled certainly the first 2. The Carlisle game, the Northampton game.
Last one was just
and then because we were already up after the Northampton game, we'd already been promoted, hadn't we? So yeah, what went on after the Northampton night probably affected us a little bit on the Saturday.
Yeah, I was going to ask just before I bring Tim, and I was going to ask, when was the sort of main celebration? Was it after Northampton away on the way back, or did you have something more after Colchester back in Wrexham?
No,
sounds to me.
It was the Tuesday night. It was definitely the Tuesday night after the Northampton game. Yeah, it was well and truly enjoyed on the bus on the way back, and then in the boardroom when we got back to the racecourse. Yeah, it was done to its best, shall we say?
Nicely maxed out. Yeah, Tony. So after all the elation of that season, going into the 93-94, and I'm going to take on a bit of a merry-go-round of particular games that I just kind of picked out. That were some of my favourite ones. So
yeah,
one of the early sort of key games for me in that 93-94 season saw us come up against Nottingham Forest in the Coca-Cola Cup. I think you were on the bench for the first game. I'm pretty sure you were on the bench for the first game.
I think so, yeah.
So you would have seen a young Stan Collymore run riot and score a hat-trick. It ended up 3 each. Crazy game. At that point, when you're seeing a player of his caliber, could you tell straight away, you know, looking on that Is he going to be one of the next big things? Is that something that you can tell straight away?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You can see. You can usually see. I mean, some of them don't always come off. Some of them get that next start. I mean, I suppose you could look at somebody like Lee Jones, who did terrifically well for Wrexham, got the move to Liverpool, never quite did it. So there's always those who have that talent, but the step up to a club like Liverpool, for Lee was huge, and for him to do anything there was always going to be difficult for him. But you still can't doubt he was a real talented young boy and a damn good player as well. But yeah, there's other ones. I remember. I think it was when I first finished playing. Brian Flynn took me to England under-15 game against where England were playing Wales. I can't remember where it was.
Was it Aston Villa?
No, I don't think so. I think it was in Wales somewhere. It was in. I'm not sure where it was. I'm trying to think which ground it was at. Can't remember. It might not have been. Might have been anyway. But Wayne Rooney was playing.
All right.
And you just looked at him. You looked at him after 10, 15 minutes. You thought, wow. And I know he played when he was 16 at Everton anyway, so he probably wasn't far off that. But you can usually tell who the young players who are going to make it. There's been some fantastic young players come through different clubs and what you've seen, what you've played against, and what have you. And there's a lot of talent out there, and even more so nowadays with the academy systems that have progressed over the last 20, 30 years. There's some amazing talent out there. It's just getting the opportunity because it's so hard to get into that Premier League now, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So going back to that game, if you'd played that as the token hard as nails defender that you were, given that it was Barry Jones, Phil Hardy, Mark Sartori, and Mel Pedgick. I know you said Mel was tough. Mark Sartori was pretty nailed.
Yeah, Carlo was a big, strong boy, wasn't he? Quick and strong. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you take it when you're on the pitch. I think there's one of the things that you work out how to play against somebody. And somebody like Stan Collymore, big, strong anyway in himself, wasn't he? He's probably 6'2" or maybe even more, but athletic, quick. As I say, very strong. I might have just bounced off him. You never know. So you might try to play him differently. How you do? I don't know. Without being on there, I don't know. And I remember we lost the away game 3-0.
Yeah.
And
3-1 because Mel scored the header. Mel was
right.
the smallest man on the pitch, and he scored with a header.
Yeah, that's it was a tough game. They were a good team, good players, and what have you. So it was always going to be a handful for any of us anyway. So but it's you talk about that season 30 years ago. It's like try to remember it all. It's difficult. You remember the good times, you remember the success, but they're the big ones, aren't they?
Well, speaking of a good time, going from one cup to another, and obviously Wrexham and the FA Cup are kind of synonymous.
Yeah,
one another really. 94-95, decent cup run, and then we come up against one of your old clubs. I'm assuming that is the first time you'd come up against Ipswich Town. It must have been. So we play them. I think it was the third round because it was Man United, which we'll come to in a minute. But obviously, Kizza, God rest his soul, scored a cracking volley. Take us through that one because Ipswich were top flight side at the time, if I remember rightly.
I think I think they were struggling near the bottom, weren't they? I think they were struggling near the bottom of the table, and they'd not long put George Burley in charge. I think, and whether it had been there for a while or not, but it was the first time I've ever come across my old club, and obviously a big thing for me, wanting to do well. But again, I think we were as a team, we were still on a roll from last season. It's a big step. Any promotion's a big step to go up to the next level. But I think we were doing okay. I think we were holding our own in the the next division up, whatever it was then. League 2 was it? Was that what it was then, or
second division? League 1. Yeah,
League 1 was it? Yeah. So it was always going to be tough for us, but I think we'd acquitted ourselves okay in that division. I think we had again that bit of confidence, and you know, going into Ipswich is a big game for everybody on that pitch. You know, everybody's trying to prove themselves, and certainly myself against my whole club. You know, you want to get one over against them, and you know, I think it was a tight game. It was again, I think the pitch was a bit heavy on the day, but you know, to get that win was you know, one of the defining moments of my career. One of the ones you were saying about when you're saying about the, you know, the passion, the pride. You know, that meant a lot to me from being told. You know, I've been there almost 10 years. I think I joined in, what was it, July, August 1982 as a 16-year-old when I'd left school. Being there, you know, as I say, nearly 10 years, and that, you know, to join Wrexham, to be told that, you know, you're not wanted at the club anymore, and thankfully I joined Wrexham, and you know, it went positively for me, and I just wanted to prove a little bit to them that, you know, I can play at this level. I can play against that type of player and whatever. So yeah, I think, you know, it was a big moment in my career. Yeah, proud moment in my career.
And the reward for that, obviously, we knew what the reward was going to Old Trafford. Them with the whole circus surrounding at the time, because Cantona obviously got sent off at Palace, so he was therefore nowhere to be seen. We were singing "Who Are Where's Your Cantona" and all this sort of stuff. What was that like as an occasion? Because I mean, to be fair to Alex Ferguson, he showed Wrexham a lot of respect with the side that he put out, because it was a strong team.
Yeah, it was, and you know, I think we started the game very well, didn't we? You know, it was like you say, it was credit to ourselves that they did put out the players and the strength of the team. But we actually started the game well, and Kiza scored after, it was 7 minutes, 9 minutes, whatever it was. It was early on, wasn't it? And he, you know, it was a great moment for us all. You know, personally, again, another proud moment for myself to lead Wrexham out at Old Trafford in front of, I think then it was 45,000 people or whatever it was. You know, fantastic moments, fantastic and great memories for myself. But the game, you know, itself was probably one of the toughest I've ever played in. And as much as I say, I was proud to take the team out, and that was a huge thing for myself. I then possibly didn't have the best game I ever had.
You scored at Old Trafford.
I flicked a lovely one right in the bottom corner that Andy Murray couldn't get down to. And then I think it was maybe 3 minutes later, I think I gave a penalty away by taking Paul Ince down. Oh, well. But these things happen against, you know, good players. But good memories all the same, positive, negative, the good memories.
Yeah, I think we were only like one of 3 teams to score twice at Old Trafford that season. I think
just before we move on, that was probably one of the 7 best minutes of my life, taking the lead against United at Old Trafford. I didn't know what to do for those 7 minutes.
Maybe we didn't as well. Maybe us on the pitch didn't know that as well. Oh, we do now.
Yeah, maybe if I've been playing centre half.
Result aside, everything was great. That black and gold kit, the fan worship at the end. Yeah. I remember all the players doing that. It's just amazing. But
it was a great day, wasn't it? You know, great day to remember. Yeah.
And I think Wrexham, the FA Cup, you kind of always crave more, and we did. So, you know, we then look at the 96-97 season. You can't stray anywhere than looking beyond the cup run that season. We get to the quarterfinals, right? So we navigate 2 replays early doors. I think it was Colwyn Bay and Scunthorpe. Then we come up against West Ham.
But Colwyn Bay, didn't we equalise in the last 10 minutes?
Yeah.
In the first round, we were there. Yeah.
I think Brian Hughes scored in every round pretty much. He was unbelievable. But going to West Ham, hosted West Ham, snow everywhere. Harry Redknapp whinging, playing with an orange ball. He makes an example that Hugo Porfirio, his Portuguese signing, had never seen snow before. And I think it was something like, when we get him back to Upton Park, we'll beat him. The rest is history, and it belongs to Kevin Russell, with a very late, great, beautiful strike, bottom corner. How? Let's go from there. I mean, just going back to that, did that stick in the gullet a bit when Redknapp comes out and says, "Right, well, you know, whatever, we'll get him back to our place and we'll sort it there." And I think it was words to that effect. It was a little bit, almost like, well, a little bit arrogant.
Yeah, I think you're always going to get that, aren't you? I think as a player, you use words like that to drive yourselves even more, don't you? I think you have to, as a collective group as well. You've got to believe that. Well, we drew with them in our place. Why can't we, do as well at their place? And I think over the game we showed that we could. I think we put a real good performance up. I don't think there was much in the game. There was. They had a few chances, I suppose. You could always say you're going to be under pressure against the Premier League team, but we withstood it. And as you say, Rooster's goal in the last minute, it's a goal to win any game, isn't it? But what a great feeling! Absolutely to go down to a Premier League club. I think we actually didn't we go down there, and it was as the first replay, and it was called off on a Tuesday night because
yeah.
So we travelled down there already, and came. Obviously, the game was called off. Came back, and then went down. Whether it was the same week or not, I can't remember. But yeah, to go through that and still go down there and put a performance on is fantastic. And again, testament to a good group of players.
Yeah, and then the reward for that was a little bit, okay, Peterborough United could have been a lot better, to be honest. However, it presents a decent opportunity to progress. Ultimately, you've just beaten a side containing Frank Lampard, Rio Ferdinand, Julian Dix. Why can't we go to Peterborough? And again, I think Brian Hughes made it the Brian Hughes show. Just unbelievably gifted midfielder. Obviously, we all know what he went on to achieve. And then I think Barry Fry was in charge, wasn't he? I think he was normally in charge of Peterborough around that time. So I think we thought, man, was that 4-2? I want to say
4-2. Yeah, a great game. Real proper cup tie. It was. Yeah, it was. I think we went. Did we go 2-1 down? And Barry Fry was doing his celebration down the touchline, as if they'd won the World Cup and what have you. But then we I think in the end we were too strong for them, and put a real good performance in. And as you say, Brian Hughes always had that knack of being in the right place at the right time and good quality finisher. Just went cold and was a real good finisher. So I think I remember it being a real good game of football.
Yeah, but not as good as the fifth round. Right, the fifth round. Birmingham City, St Andrews. I think it was 5,000 or 6,000 Wrexham fans there. You score to put us 2-1 up. I'm going to play it back to you to bring back some memories. I'm sure you've played it before, but here we go.
It's 1-1 forward. Hughes, Tony Hughes has put Wrexham into the lead. Quarter of an hour gone in the second half, and this cup tie really has changed so dramatically. From being a goal down at the interval, Wrexham have hit back. We've had a sending off and 2 goals.
What a day! What a near post header that was. Was that all? Was that a training ground move? Because Wardy's delivery for 2 of those goals was unbelievable.
Yeah, of course it was. We did it every day. Practiced it. Yeah, of course. No, I think it would have been. It would have been. God, I can't remember now. 30 years ago, I can't remember. But it would have been because you have your movements of people clearing space and people attacking certain areas. But as you say, Wardy had a wand to the left foot, didn't he? He just put it in an area, and I was in front of the near post and just managed to get enough power on it that the keeper couldn't keep it out. But again, another amazing day. Real fantastic memory that one was, because it was. I think we thoroughly deserved it. On the day there was no question that we were the better team on the day, and I think again just that confidence kept building within us. So it was again another great memory and a great moment for the club in the FA Cup.
One of the top away days I've ever experienced. It was just everything about it was amazing. With the highs come the lows. So
I know where
I think
you're going.
a lot of us, me included, I don't know about you, Andy, I queued up overnight, maybe 12, 13 hours or whatever it was, to get a ticket for Chesterfield away in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup.
Yeah.
That did happen, kids. That did happen. I mean, it was. I think it was on the Sunday. It was televised on BBC Wales. Earliest kickoff, if I remember rightly.
12 o'clock.
There's only one question to ask on Nick.
Yeah,
there's only one question.
I mean, just why, what happened? Because their embrace and Andy Marriott, usually you'd put your hat on them being some of the most reliable performers. What happened?
Yeah, it was just obviously a miscommunication. I would say that's what happened, and it does happen in games like that, and certainly in big games with a lot on it. And I think you can pick that out. We can pick a lot of things out of what did happen. One of my memories of the game itself was, I think we started off the first 15, 20 minutes really, really well, controlling the game, really playing through midfield, using width, everything we want to do without possibly either creating enough chances or scoring a goal. And then after, as I say, it must be 15, 20 minutes, everything was going through Peter Ward, through midfield and whatever. Somebody absolutely smashed him. And I would imagine that would have been to say, right, stop him playing. And I think Wardy got through another, I don't know, maybe another 40, 45 minutes before he came off, trying to, but we just lost him from the game. And I think that changed the game. That changed our style of play to such. And Chesterfield were, under John Duncan, one of my ex-managers at the time, he was the manager of Chesterfield at the time, were very direct. They had the big lad up front, and I think he was the one who either hooked the ball on or flicked it on from a long ball, and then came the misunderstanding between Darren and Andy, and say these things happen. Somebody needed to take control, didn't do it, and we all know what happened, which was it's a huge disappointment for us. It's one of those things. Football, things happen, mistakes happen. We're all, everybody's an individual, the person at the end, and don't always make the right decisions. But yeah, massively disappointing. Supporters, players, everybody. It was a real tough, tough situation to get over. Yeah. When something like that is so close to you, it's FA Cup semi-final. It's huge, isn't it? So
how do you pick yourself and the players up in that situation to know that, especially when you see how close Chesterfield took Middlesbrough in the semis as well?
Well, they should have gone through, shouldn't they?
Yeah. Robbed of a goal, weren't they? Clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's it comes down to personal pride. At the end of the day, it's a game. We lost it. Huge as it was, you've got to get over, because you're back to doing your job. You've got to go and try and win the next game. That's your job. That's what we had to do. And I think we did. I think the next game we played, I think we played whether it was the next week or whatever, but I think we won at home 2-0 against Luton, and we thought, all right, okay, we've got over it. And I think we had a bit of a bad time after that. I think so it didn't last that long, getting over it. But huge occasion, huge opportunity, and huge possibilities for all of us. Fans included, everything. It was just, at the end of the day, it was just a bit of a letdown, wasn't it? That's all you can say. But it happens. It happens.
So anyway, every time we get a guest on the pod, I think you might have alluded to it earlier when we asked you for a fearless moment, the one that gives you the most pride. You mentioned it might have been the Ipswich game. Does that override you getting the captaincy? Is there any other specific moments for you that you think, yeah, that's the one that stays with me?
I think that, as I said, the beating Ipswich in that cup game, leading the team out at Old Trafford in front of 45,000, but nothing will be getting promoted at the end of the season. That'll be the biggest thing, because you're in it. It's a game. You want to do well. You want to succeed, and to have any type of success is not easy. Not every player who has a career in football has any success, and I would say that is the one where you think, well, you've played. I think we played 42 games that season, whatever it was. Yeah. You're together as a squad. You're together as a group of players. You're living with each other day in, day out. You're working together. and to get something at the end of it, I think is the overriding thing that you've got to be proud of. That will always be it for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a special one, especially to sort of push Cardiff pretty far as well. I think it might have been York that went up too.
Yeah.
Going into the sort of the last couple of seasons for you, 97, 98, I don't know if it was a sort of injury hit season for you, in and out the side. And then we go into 98, 99, your last season with us. Ian Rush arrives.
Yeah.
One goes through the door. There's this big hoo-ha. We beat Reading 3-0 on the opening game of the season. We're definitely going to go up. What was it like playing with him? Because there's always this suggestion that maybe he was almost too intelligent and too good for some of the players, some of the passes the players are trying to pick. Was he like that? What was he like?
I think you're playing at different levels, aren't you? So you maybe his expectancy of where the ball should be at a certain time, or how it should be played at a certain time, probably, and it didn't happen, probably did affect it a little bit. Again, what would I say about Ian Rush? Absolutely top bloke, brilliant. For somebody who's done so much in the game, to come down to Wrexham and play for us at that level was superb. Great around the place. Just didn't score a goal, did he? That's
Who had the better moustache, him or Mel Pedgick?
Oh, Pedge all day long. Pedge is the best at everything in my eyes. He's my mate, and we played together. We were strong together, and nothing would beat him. One thing I've got to say about Pedge as well. During the promotion season, we were on this run. We were winning games mainly. We were drawing games, and we had a few tough games. We went up to Darlington on a Tuesday night, and losing 1-0. We'd created a lot of chances, hadn't taken them, and you think, oh, this is going to be one where we're not going to get anything out of. And then Pedge comes up in the, I don't know whether it was injury time or 89th minute. A scissor volley into the top corner to get us a point, and it's like, unbelievable. How's that old man get up there? How does he do that? But just amazing. And again, that's another memory where my centre half colleague there, he comes up with that, and you think, wow, fantastic, brilliant.
Wild. Andy.
Yeah, I want to take you on to what happened after you quit playing, which was the academy. Now, you took over from, I think, was it 99 to 2001? Brian was very, very hot on the academy. It was his sort of big thing. Yeah. Any sort of money that he got from players or cup runs went to the academy. He thought it was very important. How good was that academy back then, and what do you think could have been achieved if it had carried on?
I think like any academy, when it's in its infancy, it's always hard to get things moving, to get things going, and you've got to be patient. You have to be patient. I think the Premier League clubs had academies going, or centre of excellence, which had grown into academies. So they'd had these youth systems going for a long, long time. And I know Wrexham had a good youth policy for around the area by plucking players from local clubs and everything. To put the academy in place was a big step for a smaller club. And I think, like anything, if you give it time, you're going to get the rewards. You just have to be patient. But that obviously depends on what's happening at the top end of the club. If the club's not been successful and eventually dropped out of the league, it's hard to keep those things going. You have to say what is a priority as an owner. You have to accept that. But anything needs longevity to be successful. Whatever side of it. But I believe in the academy program. I've worked in it. At every club I've been at Wrexham, at Ipswich, at Colchester, and I think given time and given the support, they're very positive things. There's possibly it's difficult to gauge where you're getting your successes, and certainly when you're looking at the amount of players that go through the system, it's at the top level that don't get to where they should get to, maybe because of money, etc. Do they get too much too soon and they lose their hunger for the game? I don't know, but I'm a firm believer in it. I love it. I love seeing young players. I came through that at Ipswich, and I was given my opportunity there as a young player. Came to Wrexham from Ipswich. Masses of young players came through, got their opportunity. Some moved on, some didn't. And then, went back to Ipswich after that, worked in their academy, worked with the likes of some players like, Darren Bent, Darren Ambrose, Connor Wickham, players who've gone on to top level, so it does work. I'm a big believer in it. And then, when I went to Colchester, I set up the academy there. They've still got it. And we've had some good players come through there who are playing, at a high level. So I'm a massive believer in it. Yeah.
Sorry, you were working with Steve Cooper there at the academy. What were you did you see the potential there of him as a coach, and has it surprised even you how far he's gone in the game?
I don't think I didn't work with Steve that long. I mean, he was. I think he had just decided to go from finishing playing, because he was an apprentice when he first came in to the club, and didn't get offered a contract, but went into coaching. And I think because he was so young, 18, 19, he had a lot to learn. But I think he had the capacity and the mentality to want to do well. And an intelligent lad. Obviously, he's shown what he can do, and he's gone through the England, the FA, where he's been very successful with the under-17s at the World Cup. So he's proven that he's capable of managing at the top level. So fair play to Steve. He's done fantastic for himself. I think, like anybody, like a young player, you have to be given the opportunity, and you have to be given the chance to develop yourself. And Steve possibly took a long time to get to where he got to, but he did it in the right way, and it's shown out to be very, very, very successful for him.
Before I hand you to Reese, because we need you to unpick Colchester for us on Saturday, I just want to talk about Wrexham need to get back to that level. They need to start producing players again. There's a few sort of starts that they're making now, but I think now they're back in the league, they're looking towards more of Central Excellence, even academy. Are there any tips you could give them on how to sort of kickstart this now, and how to really sort of produce players, because they've got quite a huge area to pick from, really, haven't they?
Well, they have. I mean, you look at Liverpool, Manchester, the amount of kids that are around in those areas, and that you can maybe not get the best ones that go to those clubs or whatever, but you can certainly compete with the other clubs that are similar. So I think you just got to be patient. You have to have a good recruitment program. You have to have the right people in the right place, who are going back to what we were saying about Brian Flynn and Kevin Reeves and Joey Jones earlier, who believe in what they're doing, who give belief to those players, and can really push them. I think if you're giving that to kids, if you're giving them enough confidence to believe in themselves, their quality will come through. And you have to give them every opportunity to prove themselves. It's going to take. There's not many that come through at a very young age, certainly nowadays, because the game is so much more physical at every level now. It's hard for young 16, 17-year-olds, unless they've already physically developed, to get in that first team at a young age nowadays. You have to give them a bit more time. You just have to believe in them.
As Andy alluded to, Tony, we've got Colchester on Saturday. Before we discuss that, are you sort of familiar with Phil Parkinson? I know he's obviously joined Colchester while he was still at Ipswich, but do you know of him? Did you ever get a chance to meet him?
I've come across Phil a couple of times when I was manager of Colchester, when I managed Colchester for a short space of time, when he was at Bradford. So that's the only times I've come across Phil. Good guy. Very knowledgeable, very, very good motivator, and he's done wonders with what's been given to him at Wrexham. I think he's the right person for the job, and he's showing that. So I have nothing but positive to say about Phil with my experience of him, and just hopefully he sees it through and takes Wrexham back up this year.
Yeah. I mean, how tricky is that? I mean, with your manager's hat on, obviously having that amazing budget and is brilliant, but it doesn't half increase the pressure on you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does, and again, that comes down to the quality of your players and the messages that you're giving them. If you're giving them, simple enough messages and the confidence to go out and play, which it seems as if he is doing, then he's just got. Phil's been around long enough now and had enough success in the game to he's had way more success than I have. He's been a manager for a long, long time, so he obviously knows what he's doing. He's got a formula to how he works. And I would imagine, like anything, he'll go back to the tried and tested at times. When things don't go right, he'll go back to what he knows and what he believes in. But as I say, I think if they stick to what they're doing, hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll get that promotion again this year.
Yeah, let's hope so. The team not looking like they're going to get promoted this year, unfortunately, are Colchester. I think they lost the last 4 in a row. I know obviously you were very involved there and only left recently, sort of the start of this season. I mean, how do you see Saturday going a bit, especially with Wrexham's home record? I'd imagine you haven't got much confidence that Colchester can cause an upset.
Well, I've spent a lot of my life at both clubs. As nearly 9.5, 10 years at Wrexham. 14 years I was at Colchester, so great affinity for both clubs. But it seems as if at the minute Wrexham is going on a massive high trajectory and real positives about it. Colchester for the last few years has been difficult. They've whenever there's there's been a little bit of trouble. There's been a little bit of investment to bring players in, which seems to have got them out of the relegation spaces and not stayed away from relegation into the conference over the last few years. But this season hasn't really changed, in terms of the way it's gone. And even though they've invested a little bit more in players, they're quite a young team. They've got a little bit of experience in there, but I would say more than not, they're a young team. So again, going back to that famous old thing, confidence isn't probably at the highest there. So I would imagine Phil's probably getting his team wound up to get into Colchester pretty early and get after them and see if they can put them under pressure and get that early goal. Yeah. That's what you would say, because the confidence isn't great, and if they concede an early goal, who knows what might happen. But they've got some, they've got some good players. They've got some talented boys. They've got a little bit of experience in them. Matt Jay, John Kindi, Tom Hopper. They've been around. They've got some good players, young players. But as I say, it's you look at the game and you would think, Wrexham are the favourites to start with. But we know football, what can happen, don't we?
Oh yes, we do. But I think let's hope that Wrexham can make sure we get a win. It's the type of game that we have to be winning, obviously, if we want to get promoted. But also, Colchester, a good league club, so I hope they can turn things around before it does get too dangerous for them. Would you mind staying with us, Tony, to do our predictions for next Saturday? Andy, do you want to go first? Wrexham versus Colchester.
Yeah, should we just do the quickfire before we do predictions?
Yes, please do. Sorry, I forgot.
Oh, you always forget about the quickfire. Tony, whatever pops into your head from your time at Wrexham, who was the most skillful?
Paul Connolly.
Oh, good. Popular answer for me. Yeah. Favourite ever player, Cal Connolly. Who was the worst dressed?
Oh, God. Mark Sartori.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I'm not going to tell Carlo, apologies, Carlo. I just pulled that out of nowhere. Sorry.
Who was the most underrated player? Who didn't really get the plaudits?
I think you could say a couple there. For me, 2 players who I thought should have done much better and gone on to bigger, better things were Gareth Owen and Phil Hardy. Both real good young players, and had a decent career, played, but I think could have gone higher and played higher. Whether they were underrated or not, I don't know. I think you can maybe just look at that from the outside and say because they didn't go anywhere, nobody felt they could take a gamble on them. But I think there's a lot of players playing at this level who are underrated but are real good players.
Mickey Thomas said Gaz, didn't he, Andy?
He did, yeah. A lot of people have said Gaz.
Yeah.
Just
Because-
on guard. He's making good progress on his recovery from his
Yeah,
stroke,
I've been in touch with a few people, and
Yeah.
so hopefully he comes through, and
Yeah.
he's a strong one, and at the end of the day, he's a strong
Yeah.
boy.
he is.
Who was the biggest moaner?
Oh, Benno.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just moaned about anything, but then just laughed afterwards. He was, great character, but loved it. But loved to moan. He loved to moan about everybody, about this and that and what have you. But yeah, good character to have in the dressing room as well, though.
Yeah.
You could always rely on it, having a laugh with him in there.
And finally, from me, which person would you least like to fight?
Oh, Mel Pedgick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How strong was Mel then? Because when I look at Mel, I mean, I've known Mel for years, and I've never really thought hard man, mostly because he's so nice. But
yeah, strong. He's just real strong. He's just solid. Not a lot of him, but just he's just solid. You wouldn't want to run into him. Yeah. But yeah, he wasn't outwardly aggressive in terms of that. I suppose the only other person you could say who was nuts and who did lose it was Barry Hunter.
Right.
he could lose it like that, but he's an Irishman, isn't he? Not an Irishman, so yeah. But either of those two, I would say.
Fair enough. Tony, thanks so much for your time. Very quickly before you leave, let's do predictions. Tim, do you want to go first? Colchester, Wrexham at the Racecourse on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it'll be nice, straightforward 3-1 to Wrexham. I think.
It's the kiss of death, that, isn't it? I'm gonna say a 2-0. I'm also gonna say that we'll be solid. We've got no excuses because Colchester are in a bit of trouble at the moment. Lost 4 in a row, as I said. So yeah, 2-0. Andy?
I think what Tony alluded to a couple of minutes ago, I think if we score early, I think it could be quite a tough afternoon for Colchester, and I think it could be a 3-0 if we score early. If not, it'll be more nervy, but I'm going to go 3-0. I think we are going to score early.
Tony?
I would say 2-1. 2-1. Yeah, with maybe Colchester scoring early, and then Wrexham working their way back in, but just being too strong in the end.
That's fair enough.
No sitting on the fence. That's good. Like that.
No, that's fair. You can't say anything else on a Wrexham podcast, can you? Tony, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And we know that lots of the listeners to this podcast who've been keen to have you on for quite some time will be very pleased to have listened. So thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you very much. It's been a great honour to be asked and come on there.
I even wore the shirt in your honour. I can just about fit into it.
Looks good. Looks
just
good.
about sucking everything in.
That's fine.
Thank you very much. Just one note before we go, Andy and Tim, you'll be interested in this. On the note of Tim's terrible songs, Okonkwo songs, I think we've got one on the YouTube video for last week's podcast, possibly a worse one. So it's from Topcat 8803, not to be confused with Topcat 8804, to the tune of Merry Christmas Slade. So here he is, Arthur Okonkwo, and he's shit hot in the goal. Look to the future now, he's only just begun. So Tim, you are not the worst.
Terrible.
You're not the worst terrace chant writer out there.
Look, it's
Bottom
not about
cat.
It's gravitated away from terrace chant writing now, just more for shits and giggles and to satisfy my own humour. But that's still a valiant effort.
But thank you for the comment. We do appreciate it. And thank you, as ever. You can get in touch with us in a variety of different ways. Please do. We might check it. We might not, but we do appreciate all the messages. So thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Bye.